Hey, Dean here, and for the next phase, I'm trying to build up to get to the point where I paint the El Camino, and the next thing I got to do is put a new skin on the passenger door here. I already did it on the driver's door, and that came out really good, and the fit's good, the gap is good, the alignment's good, and now I got to do the passenger door, and I'll show you why I'm going to put a new skin on this door. So this is the door skin for the passenger door, and overall it's pretty straight. Got a few little dings in it, but it's not bad. And overall the frame and the window frame and the whole structure's pretty good, but you can see the door skin has rust through. It's got perforations here, here, and here along the bottom, which it would be pretty easy just to cut this out and weld in a patch, but the structure underneath is rusted as well. So at this point I have to repair. It's more important to repair the door frame itself, and I got to pull the skin off to do it. I might as well put a new skin on. New skin's about $125, and it'll be brand new and straight, reasonably straight. And the last one, it fit really good, and it's just not that hard, and it makes fixing the door structure a lot easier. I'll show you what's wrong with the door. So here is the actual door frame, and you can see significant rust perforation here, here, and where it attaches to the door skin. The door skin, it's a piece of sheet metal, and it comes over, and then you crimp it over, and this metal's got to be replaced. So we got to get this skin out of the way, and by the time I pull that off, like I said, it's just easier to replace it, put a new skin on it. So this is the worst part. This is the front of the door where the hinges bolt on, and that's got to be addressed. I mean, that is seriously perforated, and it's going to be a challenge to fabricate this because you got this level, this level, this level, this level, and then the flange for the skin. And there's some other minor perforations here, but the rest of it's in pretty good shape. So we're going to do some grinding, we're going to do some welding, we're going to do some metal repair on this, and I'll show you how we take the door skin off. It's pretty easy, and there's other good YouTube videos on this, but I'll show it here too. So the way the door is, the door skin is connected, trying to show a close-up. You got the outer door skin, and then it's folded over with a lip here, and then there are spot welds. Occasionally, the factory just spot welded it down. And so what you do is you take a grinder. It's pretty easy. I like this 2-inch angle grinder, and I just use 36 grit nylock, and you just grind the metal off the very edge of that until it separates, the skin from the folded over lip part. And you take a thin screwdriver and you pry it apart and go all the way around. The bottom, the sides are that lip arrangement, and the top is actually spot welded in several places. And what you use is a spot weld grinder, and I'll do that and I'll show that. And then you can just pull the whole skin off, and then you're left with this strip on here. And you take your spot weld grinder and you just grind the spot welds carefully. The key is to leave as much of the metal on the door frame as possible, because you're going to need to put the new skin over that and weld to it. So I'm just going to grind this off and cut the spot welds and get that skin off. It's loud. You definitely want earplugs. And it's going to throw some sparks, so you want some gloves. We just start grinding. So you can see it didn't take much at all. I just ground the very edge of that off as little as possible, and I was able to, you know, get a screwdriver in and separate the outer skin from the door. And that's how it works. You just go all the way around. And this strip's going to be here, and it's spot welded, and you're going to use a spot weld cutter to get that off. But the skin just comes right off. The 2-inch 36 grit was doing the job, but it's a little slow. It's nice if you need fine control, but I decided to switch to the Ryobi 4.5 with the 80 grit flat disc, and man, that thing rocks. You gotta just be careful you don't cut too much. See, the skin is just peeling back after I grind it off. Exactly what we want. Just got to work my way around it. Okay, so I've got that all ground off and broken loose. You can see the skin is loose from the frame all the way up the bottom and both sides right up here to the window frame. So the only thing really holding it on is there's a spot weld up here on the window frame, and then there's this bracket. This bracket here on this car, it's a 68. It had a vent window, and you can see there's the hole where the vent window shaft went down, and this whole bracket is spot welded to a flange on the door frame. You can see here's the new skin, and it has this bracket on it. So all I got to do is pop, there's 3 or 4 spot welds here on this bracket, and what I'm going to use is a spot weld cutter. It was about 20 bucks on Amazon. It's pretty cool. You can see it's got a tip, it's spring loaded, ouch, and some metal cutting teeth. And the key here, you just put it in a drill, and the key here is to take a punch and punch a good dimple where you want that little tip to go right in the center, and then it just cuts the metal in a circle, cuts the whole spot weld out, and then you got a circle there to weld the new piece in. So there's 3 or 4 there, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those spot welds, and then we'll do the same thing. So you can see, you know, the skin is broken loose, but the lip has been left on, and it's been spot welded in several places, and we'll use that spot weld cutter very carefully along here to get this piece of metal off. Look how grody that is in there. Isn't that a good thing we're taking it off? And of course we got this rust we got to deal with. Okay, so I've got those spot welds on that bracket cut with the spot weld cutter, and now this skin is loose, and it is off. So the skin is off the door. Now I can get busy on repairing the door, the perforations that I showed earlier, and then I'll put that new skin on. Pretty easy, not too bad. Well, it's just never easy, is it? This rust through on the door frame here, you can see, you know, for the start, that's a complex series of bends. You know, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surfaces, and you know, their radius. So fabricating that piece is going to be a challenge. I think I can do it, but then cutting it out and welding it in has yet another challenge, and I'll show you. The bracket here, lighting probably not good, but there's a huge heavy-duty bracket inside here which the door hinge bolts to, and that's super important. It's got to be in the right place. But I've got to cut this bracket out so I can get in there and weld in the metal. So I've been using my spot weld cutter and cutting these. I'm just going to keep working and get that bracket out so I can get in here and cut out this rusted metal. And you can see these are nylon clip things. This is where the door seal goes. Now that's got to be right, and this metal is compromised enough that it's got to be replaced. You can see all the pinholes and perforations. You know, other places you could just skin over that with some new metal, weld it down, call it good. But here, I think the dimensions are important, so I got to cut that out, and I got to cut that bracket out. I'll get it. It's just never easy. Well, I did it. I got this bracket cut out, and now I can get in here, and that looks rough. But now I can get in here, and it's a pretty straightforward deal to replace that sheet metal. And the good news is I was able to get this bracket out without distorting the door frame itself or the bracket, because that's got to be the right shape and in the right place, and I got good holes to relocate that. I mean, that's the door hinge, right, and where it bolts, and that's got to be right. So like I said, never easy, but that was good, and I did it with that spot weld cutter. Amazon, 20 bucks. Came with like 10 bits. So, you know, they get dull pretty fast, and you just replace them, and it frickin' works good. Well, there's the corner of the door with all new metal patched in there, and the dimensions are right for the weather seal, and all the pinholes and rust throughs and everything are taken care of. It is structurally sound. I had to do a patch just on a pinhole over here. I just backed that up with a copper sheet and welded that pinhole up. But it's good. It is not pretty. But this is the front lower corner of the door, and it's not going to be seen. The door panel, you know, the upholstery comes down over here. The weather strip's in here. The dimensions are right, and it is structurally sound, and the shape is good. I'm going to be able to put that that bracket in that the hinge bolts to. I think we're good to go. Now I got to go remove this lip all the way around using my spot weld cutter all the way around, and then the tedious job of stripping that all down to bare metal and then painting it in epoxy inside and out. There we go, making progress. It's not pretty, but it is strong, and that's good. I had to shape, you know, cut and shape 4 or 5 pieces to, and here's my primary metal shaping and working tools. A ball peen hammer and a piece of railroad track, and sometimes over there you can see it, a vise. You know, if I need to make a 90, just clamp the metal in there and hammer it over. You don't need fancy tools, you know, for, you know, some stuff you need a brake and an English wheel and all that, but for shaping these little pieces of metal, piece of railroad track. Got it on eBay. Paid more for shipping than I did for the piece. Well, there's the door all ground and sanded down. and ready to put primer on. I did the inside too. So I'll put a couple coats of primer on this, and there's the that inner bracket. It is all sanded down, 80 grit, shiny metal, and we'll shoot the epoxy primer on this. 2 coats, flip it over, do the other side, and then it will be time to weld the door skin on. Here's the door skin. And I'm going to go ahead and shoot the inside with epoxy primer. This EDP coating from the manufacturer is okay, but I just want something better. So I've scuffed it with 180, and while I got the gun loaded and I'm shooting the door, I'll go ahead and shoot a nice couple coats of epoxy primer inside the door skin as well. And then now that everything's painted, you know, you got to weld this door skin on. I'll just grind off some little spots where I'm going to spot weld it, and weld it and then repaint those spots. But that's the plan. In a little while, it's going to be black epoxy primer. And there, we shot it with black SPI epoxy. Looks good. First coat. It's flashed 30 minutes, so I'm going to put a second coat on, but that will give it the preservation that is totally needed. Looks good. And my welds and grinding and all that look a lot better now that they're painted. Yeah. And like I said, I painted the inside of the door skin just for preservation purposes. Wanted good paint on that. I'll put a second coat on it as well, but hey, it's going well.
I decided to go ahead and shoot a quick video while I'm painting. Why not? Putting the second coat on. Well, I ran out of paint, but I got it done, what I needed to get done.
Well, I've got all the metal repair done, and I've got that bracket for the door hinge welded back in there. So now, there's the door skin. Nice tool holder, right? Being careful not to dent it. But we're ready to put the skin on this thing here. And you can see it's all painted and preserved, and it ain't gonna rust. And yeah, I think this repair came out really good. The outer side, you can see I've got seam sealer on there. I'll put one more coat of paint on that after I put the skin on, because when I put the skin on, and you know, this metal's all repaired. There's seam sealer on the lap joints, but that's all good solid metal where there used to be pinholes. So I'll put the skin on. It's going to be spot welded along this this flange, and I'll have to repaint, you know, touch that up. But hey, it is fixed and it's solid, and there's all kinds of epoxy paint and seam sealer. If you know, water comes in through the door, the window, it runs down in here, but it ain't gonna rust here, I guarantee you that. And there's drain holes down here in the bottom somewhere. Yeah, drain holes here and here for the water that does get in. It's better than the factory, because the factory had this in bare metal. They put it all together and then they shot a rust inhibitor on there and it didn't work because you can see it rusted. But it ain't going to happen again. Next 50 years of this car's life will be better. Okay, it is time to put the skin on the door frame. So here's the skin. Nice straight sheet metal, all brand new. And we just put it on here, set it into place. And I carefully flip it over. Make sure it's hooked. And the fit is good. And now here's what we got to do. I'll bring this in a little closer. So if you can see in the video, there's this lip on the new skin here, and this has to be bent over onto the door frame, and it's at pretty much a 90-degree angle now, and we're just gonna bend it over. And so we got a tool for this. It's a really nice tool from Eastwood. It is a door skin lip bender. And you can see it's got a clamp and a nylon block. So the nylon block goes on the outside so it doesn't mar the visible surface. And you use this to pinch it down, but you got to get it started. So what you have to do is take a hammer and dolly and hammer this lip over until it's, you know, kind of past 45, and then we can use that tool to crimp it the rest of the way. And you can see it's about a 2-inch wide hard nylon block that goes on the outside so it doesn't, again, mar the outside steel. So what I have to do is take a hammer, just a ball peen hammer and a dolly, and I'm just going to tap this lip down until it's at about a 45-degree angle, and then start using the lipper tool to finish crimping that. And then ultimately, once it's crimped over, and that'll be a lot of force, it could probably stay there, but I'll spot weld it at the same place the factory spot welded it, you know, every 4 inches or so, so it's totally on there. And then I'll touch that all up with epoxy paint where I weld. But that's the plan. So I'm just going to start hammering that lip down to about a 45. Of course it moved. Definitely want it in the right place. I may just take the hammer and do it without the dolly so I can pinch it. There we go. So I've got that edge started with the hammer, so now I'm going to use the crimper, get this edge set down, and then it won't move, and I can do the other side. It'll be a little easier. So I just take this crimper, nylon side goes on the outside, crimp this thing down. And I think I'll try to get a close-up shot. This is pretty cool. So you can see I've crimped a little bit here. I've started hammering here. See if I can do this one-handed. See if this shows up in the video. So that's a nice even crimp. I'll go back over it real quick just to cinch it down. Kind of go between the spots. Yeah, that's very nice. So I just got to go around the whole perimeter of the door doing that. Bending it over and then crimping it with the tool. And of course this is going to be the edge that meets the front fender. It's got to be straight and smooth. It may have to be dressed a little bit, but that's good, that's strong. And then like I said, I'll do the whole thing and then I'll spot weld it every 3 or 4 inches. And I'll put a coat of seam sealer on this edge so water can't get into that crack and rust. That's it. And the door skin is on the door, and the door has been hung on the El Camino. And I went ahead and test fitted the rest of the front sheet metal, the fender, the hood, core support. And it needs work, but I think we are super close. If you look, these gaps look pretty good. A little fine tuning to do, but the door frame fits, the gaps are pretty good. So the door, for the most part, is finished. Now it's just fine tuning the panel alignment and moving on to painting the car. So that little project is done. Came out good.